The bell rang, and the class shuffled in. Marcus sat at his desk, clutching his pencil like it was the heaviest thing in the world. The words on the page danced in front of him, each letter slipping away the harder he tried to grab hold of it. Around him, his classmates were already scribbling sentences, giggling as they compared notes. Marcus looked down again, heart pounding, and whispered, I just can't do this. For many teachers, Marcus isn't just a character. He's a student we know by name, a child who's smart, curious, full of potential, but stuck in the shadows of reading struggles. And for every Marcus, there's a teacher trying to figure out how to reach them. Hello, I am Franchesca Thompson with Everything But the Lesson Plan, the podcast that dives into what really matters for educators inside and outside the classroom. Today, we're kicking off a special conversation with an amazing educator, Regina Wright, third grade literacy teacher, soon to be master of elementary education and a lifelong learner. This episode is called No Teacher Left Behind, and it's about something near and dear to many of us, supporting a at-risk student, at-risk readers, and making sure teachers have the tools they need to help every child thrive. Hello, Regina. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing so good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm excited about to hear about your research and what we're talking about today. So thank you. Now tell me, where are you from?
I like to say Atlanta, Georgia, but I'm technically from Snellville. Nobody really knows where Snellville's at, so Atlanta's pretty cool.
Yes, Snellville, Georgia. Okay, so you have a really good topic that we're going to talk about today, and so let's just get right into it. You have been passionate about literacy for years. What sparked your drive to look deeper into this?
So I actually think it was something that was God ordained. Of course, I grew up, my parents read to me. We were always going to museums, and I just love reading in general. But when I was actually applying to my first teaching position, my principal said she could see me doing great things related to literacy. So, of course, as a new teacher, that really hyped me up and got me excited. And so, as I continued my professional career, I just had a lot of class populations that had a lot of at risk students. And I found that some of their foundational issues, whether it was academic, behavioral, social, really was just rooted in them not being able to read and understand the work that they were doing. So, and of course, that leads to adults not being able to work and live in society. So, as an independent person and just my passion for the kids, I really wanted to give them the skills to be able to live and work in society. And that pretty much starts at reading. So, that's kind of where it originates from.
Yeah, I loved it. And I love that your principal planted that seed in you early on. You were fairly new in education, correct?
It was actually during our second interview where she just said, oh, I can, because I told her about some of the classes that I was taking my senior year. And she was like, yeah, I can tell there's something there. So I was like, oh, well, maybe that's my sign to keep that going. And we're 5 years in. So I say it was a pretty good choice. She knew what she was talking about.
Great. So by the end of this episode, teachers will know who at-risk students are, what strategies they can use, and what this means for the future of education, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So let's just jump right into it then. Let's
Yeah.
start with the basics, okay? At risk. People use this term often, right? But what does it really mean in this context?
So, in this conversation, the label of at risk is not in reference to what people generally think of. So, we're not talking about the socioeconomic status of students and their family, not their ethnic background. We're not talking about things that they may be at risk for health wise or even dropout risk rates. We're going to be talking about the students who are currently not performing up to their academic standards. So for the educators in the audience, these are the students who are not reading at grade level, the small group you meet with multiple times a week, even the ones who are consistently performing, developing on, some of the standardized tests that we have.
Mm-hmm.
At-risk students, could be at risk for any reason. So that could be they may just not have the skill set to decode, encode, or whatever the skill is, or they may have a learning disability. But no matter the reason, they're just not performing at how their age or their grade level counterparts are expected to.
Okay, so is it not the students already in special education programs, but maybe
No,
the kids might slip through the cracks?
yes, definitely the kids who slip through the cracks. The students in the special education program already have a data and the plan in reference to how and why they are or they are not performing as expected. So we're talking about the students who are undiagnosed or maybe just doesn't have the data yet to support that they need an IEP, an individualized plan. So like the tier two students who are getting extra interventions or just the students you may notice that are not consistently performing independently through whatever tasks they may have.
Hmm. Okay. So, all right. Now let's dig into the what do we do about it, right? So
Mhm.
you've researched some really practical strategies and one that in particular, the SLDM. So let's start with that.
Mhm. So SLDM is actually self-regulated learning and development model. It's pretty much a learning theory that was popularized by Barry Zimmerman, who's a psychologist. But he pretty much wanted to demonstrate to teachers and anybody working with students or people in general that when you directly model something, so for example, the process and the strategies of how to solve problems or accomplish a task, along with showing people how to self-regulate themselves, we are teaching them that they don't need extrinsic motivation, but we're also building their confidence. And so, when students have the confidence, they want to learn. And the more that they want to learn, the more engaged with learning they are. So that will give them, hopefully, a foundation to lean on when they do come up with a problem somewhere in the future.
So that confidence piece, I know just tell me a little more about that. When it comes to our students, why is that confidence missing? Do you think was that something part of your research?
It wasn't a heavy part of my research, but in talking with my, literacy coach and some people on my team, I mean, think about if you don't have the confidence to do something, you don't want to do it, period. So imagine you're 7, 8 years old, you see people reading, they're talking about how fun it is, and yet you're struggling with it. You don't see the excitement of it. You plain not want to do it. I mean, think about it. We don't want to do I can't think of something confident. I mean, playing a game. If you're not good at a sport, you don't want coach to put you in, no matter how your friends might be, if your parents are cheering you on. So it's important that we, I like to say hype the students up. While we do need to teach them the processes and the strategies, we also have to give them that self-confidence. That's something a lot of kids are lacking today. They don't believe in themselves and they also don't have the practice to do things themselves. So if that's lacking, it definitely does have a detriment to, their learning.
Yeah, I think that plays a big part. So this process is it's not just about teaching the content, but teaching students how to learn, right?
Exactly, exactly. I think as educators, we forget that students have only been on earth for a couple of years, so they don't know how to do a lot of things. And our job is to teach them how it should look like. Well, we should be teaching them how to do things and then what it should look like. So when we show them processes like SLDM or SRSD, which is self-regulated strategy development, we're giving them the actual skills to solve a problem. So that way, when they get older or when they, need to do something independently, they can actually reference on, oh, I've done something like this before, and not necessarily this is something I've been taught. They have I like to say, like the context clues or the toolbox to be able to solve it themselves.
Hmm. The toolbox. So I
Mhm.
love that. And also, you talk about RTI, response to intervention. Tell me a little more about that.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, RTI, response to intervention, is a framework that schools use to identify the at-risk students. So it could be a range of data sets, but once we identify the students, then we are able to provide them interventions that will hopefully get the students back to where they need to be, or essentially where they need to be going on in the future. This is that tiered system. Many people here, conversation, where all students start off as tier one, so everybody's getting the same quality education. And then if a student is identified as needing more support, they'll move to tier two, then tier three, which if they get to tier three, they might need extra support, which will then get into the world of education. Um, so when schools and teachers implement RTI intentionally, or the buzzword nowadays is with fidelity, students have a higher chance of one, not failing through the system, but two, also increasing their achievement in the reading content area specifically.
Very important in this process.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So what is the role of a teacher in the process? And I also like you to think about new teachers. What are the roles that
So while RTI is the framework that the schools are using to identify the students who are at risk, teachers are the ones who are actually charged with identifying the students and providing the interventions. So it's important for educators, whether you're new or veteran, to know that this starts and ends with data. And data could be classwork grades, summative grades, homework. It could even be noticing how your student may be acting during the reading block. Anything that can just provide information or data to show what and where the student is at, and then potentially lead in the direction of targeted instruction or intervention.
Mm,
Another thing that educators need to keep in mind about intervention time is that it works best when done consistently and with high expectations.
mhm,
Definitely check in with your local school, your intervention coach, whoever you report to first. But as a general rule of thumb, these interventions should be around 20 minutes long. They should happen 3 to 4 times a week, and they should be with a group of no more than 5 students so that you can really provide the differentiated support each student may need. And of course, you can group them by skill level or interest level. It just depends on, how you as a teacher are. And it is suggested that you follow a consistent format. So what I like to do and what I've researched is you review a previous skill, then you introduce the new skill or the thing that is targeted that the students need intervention on. You provide guided practice and independent practice of the new skill, and then there should be some type of integration of previously taught skills so that the students are not just learning, but they're actually applying what they have learned.
mm. I love these takeaways, right? And
Yeah.
these best practices that you've discovered in your research. So just before we end, just give me a few like big takeaways that you want teachers to understand from our conversation today.
Um, I think as I was doing my research, well, not I think, what I did notice a lot of is what students need, teachers need, and what the teachers need, students need. So, for example, students need step by step instruction, teachers need deliberate direction. Students need time to apply their learning and, receive direct feedback. Teachers need time to implement these new strategies within their personal classroom, and then be provided observations. I think with the strategies that I researched and provided today, they're not unknown or uncommon for majority of the educators to use. But it is a reminder to ourselves that we have to be explicit, intentional, proactive, and understand that we're not in the boat alone in supporting these students.
Mhm.
Um, I really, 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 and I'm talking to myself too, but educators, we have been trained to do this. This is not just our job, this is life. So
Yeah.
definitely trust your professional judgment when it comes to seeing a student who may be at risk. And then, especially when it comes to reading, something that is already unnatural and hard for the human brain to do. Kids really just need to know what and how it looks like. So make sure that you are modeling and laying those expectations so that they know how to do it independently.
Okay, I love it. Now, let me ask you something. What are you going to do next with this research? When you graduate, what do you see happening?
I would love to work with teachers who are working with those specific students. So, who are working with at risk students. Maybe not necessarily a coach or maybe, still be in the classroom,
Yeah.
because I think that's very important to see firsthand how these strategies are working. Um, But I feel like a lot of educators are just discouraged right now. And I want to encourage my fellow people in the trenches that, hey, you got this, you know what to do. And also, not that admin is bad or anything, because I love my admin. But someone who is on the same level and who can, relate to and hype people up. So I think that's next. I'm almost done. So ask me in December when I finish my last class.
December. She is almost there. I love it. Well,
Done.
I look forward to watching you in your journey and just seeing what comes for you next out of your research and finishing up school and how you use this in your job, or who knows, you might launch your own thing. So
We'll see.
looking well,
We
thank
shall
you so
see.
much for being on the show, ma'am.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing your research and your heart today. This was such a powerful reminder that no teacher is alone and no student should be left behind. For my fellow educators listening, I hope you got something tangible you can use tomorrow, or at least a new way to think about your students who just need a little extra. If you've loved today's episode, make sure you subscribe to Everything But the Lesson Plan wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, sometimes the best professional development is the one you give yourself by listening, reflecting, and applying what you've learned. Until next time, keep teaching strong, keep leaving no teacher or student behind, keep thriving.